Good morning, I'm Cradler Volmer, and today I'll be telling you about the Ebola virus disease. So today we'll talk about the cause of Ebola, the demographics, different strains, the symptoms, transmission, treatments, the experiment, similar diseases, and then America with Ebola. So Ebola is a virus that causes severe bleeding, organ failure, and often fatality in humans. So the Ebola was discovered in 1976 at the Ebola River, hence the name. And since it was discovered, it has appeared almost randomly in Africa, and it recently moved to other countries and continents. So, out of 27,532 people, 11,193 have died, or 41%. This percentage has varied from 25 to 90% over the years in recent and past outbreaks. The 6 countries that have usually been most affected by it are Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea, Nigeria, United States, and Mali. This is what Ebola will look like when it's inside your body. This is what the virus looks like. So, Ebola is caused by infection with one of the Ebola virus strains. Ebola can cause infecting humans and non-humans alike. So it can affect animals and humans. But usually, if it affects an animal, it's usually only primates like apes and monkeys. It's caused by infection with the virus of the Filoviridae family, Ebola virus family. There are 5 identified Ebola species that have known to cause harm to humans. So 4 are known to cause harm. So there's the Ebola virus, the Sudan virus, there's the Typhus virus, which is formerly known as the Côte d'Ivoire Ebola virus, and then they have the Bundibugyo virus, and then the last virus, the Reston virus, can only affect animals. It hasn't been known to affect humans. Researchers believe that the host, that Ebola is animal-borne, and that the host is most likely bats. Ebola can take effect usually anywhere where it's taken, and it's survived where it's taken. Symptoms of Ebola don't show until 21 days after you have been infected. Symptoms will include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, which could be bloody, red eyes, raised rash, chest pain, coughing, stomach pain, and bleeding, usually from the eyes. But bleeding usually from the eyes that's when you're closer to death. So the ones where you're bleeding are more severe. And if you're really close to death, you can bleed from other orifices, which is like holes where you can bleed from your eyes, your ears, and your rectum, which is like that area. People get Ebola through direct contact, through broken skin or mucous membranes, and through the nose, eyes, or mouth, with bloody or bloody fluids, including but not limited to urine, sweat, feces, semen, and others, of a person who is sick or of the body who has died of Ebola. You can also get Ebola through contaminated objects such as needles and syringes from people who have been infected or have died of Ebola. There is no approved vaccine or treatment available for Ebola, but they have been doing experimental treatments. So they're like, when you show symptoms, they'll basically treat the symptoms as they come. So there's no proven thing. Basic interventions, when used at the right time, can help make you feel better before Ebola can get severe. It can help you if you do it at the right time. People who recover from Ebola infection, they antibodies that will last for 10 years or longer. Some people who have recovered from Ebola have had to deal with complications such as joint problems and vision problems. This is a picture of how and where Ebola will affect you. The blue is the early stages, which aren't as severe, and then the red is the more advanced stages, so like the bleeding, the diarrhea, and the vomiting, impaired kidney and liver, because Ebola mostly affects that area, so you're not getting purified in your body as well. Okay, in my experiment, the scientists basically took monkeys they gave Ebola virus to, and they monitored how they reacted to Ebola and other viruses, such as HAF. So they took monkeys that died of Ebola, and they took monkeys that they killed who were infected with Ebola but were gonna die, and then they dissected them and found out where Ebola affects, because in the monkeys the liver and the kidney were both swollen when they were dying, so that's where Ebola affects you. We care. The international community, as we all know, was slow to respond to the outbreak and is still working to catch up. But the U.S. government has already invested more than $780 million in Ebola response efforts, nearly twice the amount of the next largest donor. And I am grateful for the leadership actions of President Obama to ensure that members of our armed forces and United States uniformed public health services have been deployed and made available. Committee of Foreign Relations. This was basically at a council meeting with some of the other nations' leaders to discuss the Ebola response and their efforts. So Ebola first came to American soil officially on September 30th, 2014 with Thomas Eric Duncan. He was the first American Ebola victim. Thomas Eric Duncan brought it over from Liberia, where he helped give birth to a pregnant woman who had Ebola. And when he went to the airport, there were people who were trafficking people to make sure that they didn't have Ebola and spread it elsewhere, because Liberia is one of the top 6 places Ebola has affected. He lied and said that he lied about where he'd been, so that's how Ebola got to America. If he hadn't lied, Ebola probably would not have ever reached America. When he reached America, he was taken to the Presbyterian Hospital for showing Ebola symptoms. But like I said, it doesn't show until 21 days after infection, so he thought it was okay until that happened. He died on October 8th because on October 4th they gave him an experimental drug, Bry-Cantifor, and his family and some other doctors didn't think the doctors put him on the drug on time, because he still had to go through with all the Ebola symptoms 5 days before they actually started treating him like that. And so there was 8 people who were infected. Thomas Eric Duncan, he infected 2 of his healthcare workers, and then the other 6 got it from Africa. There were 3 doctors, 1 nurse, an NBC News cameraman, and Thomas Eric Duncan. There are similar diseases like Ebola. Both Lassa and Marburg can cause hemorrhagic fevers, meaning fevers accompanied by damage to the blood vessels, which can result in bleeding. Marburg hemorrhagic fever is very much related to Ebola in the way that there is no definite cure and the host is still under research. In conclusion, Ebola is extremely rare in the United States, so you are not really at risk, but if you ever travel to Ebola-infected parts of the world, watch out.
Do they
they said the Ebola symptoms don't show until 21 days. So lots of people thought they were fine, and then they infected their family, their friends, and their other livestock and people. So that started a big outbreak. And then that's when like the guys with the hazmat suits and stuff, that's why they had to cover up, because it's not that contagious, but it's contagious through fluids. So if you were a healthcare worker and you weren't properly suited, you would be at risk. Isaac.
Is Ebola still, is the infection still on American soil?
No, not anymore. Everyone who's had Ebola in America has either been cured or died. But I'm pretty sure only Thomas R. Duncan died and everyone else was cured. It's possible.
What's the earliest recorded incidents we have of Ebola?
Well, since they first discovered it that in 1976, that's when they started looking for them. So from 1976 on, there've been like random Ebola outbreaks. They started in Central Africa near the rainforest. So it spread out from there, and it's just been pretty random. Like there's no set time for it.